Morning, everyone. So one of the very common shilas amongst many of the shilas that, of course, we're going to be dealing with over the next few weeks. Can I know the list keeps on getting bigger and bigger. The comments that are coming in, the emails. Baruch Hashem, it's going to be a long series, but a very packed Geshmaka series. So we're going to start today with a very, very important shaila. It's one of the very common shilas that come up in the workplace, in the business, in the offices, and things like that. It's going to take up a couple of times to probably get through the shir, to get through the inyan. And that is the shaila of Yichud. Yichud in the workplace, Yichud in businesses is something that's a very, very common shaila that many people ask. Just to give you a few examples, somebody was having a meeting with the bank manager, and the bank manager has an office that the window is completely blocked out and the door is locked because it's a bank. So am I allowed to go along and have a meeting with the bank manager if there's a locked door? For example, another example, if I'm showing somebody a potential client an office building, or I'm showing them an apartment, very common. I'm showing people apartments, right? People do tivuch in this country, people do real estate out in other countries, and they show people apartments. So you go in the apartment, the door closes, so you're alone now. And it's a woman that's coming along. What's the halacha with that? This is negeya to doctors' offices. It's negeya to so many different shilas, maybe even cars, maybe even open areas that we'll discuss. Now, as I said in the beginning, every single one of these shilas that we discuss require a very in-depth, intense understanding of all the ma'amekoimis, of all the sources, of all the halachas, which is impossible for us to do if we want to get past many of the subjects. So we're just going to concentrate some of the makoimis, some of the halacha l'maisa. I remember this was a couple of years ago. A fellow called me up, and he works with secret intelligence. And how it works is they interrogate certain people. This is in America. They interrogate certain people, and when they do so, they have them in a room with the interrogator and the person that's getting interrogated. And there is a glass window over there that, unbeknown to most people, there are people on the other side who are observing the person being interrogated to see like his facial expressions, to see what's going on. And the shaila came out, is one allowed, for example, to interrogate one being a male and one being a female? Is that a shaila of Yichud if there are other people that can look in? Another common example is video cameras. Nowadays we have video cameras. Is that considered to be something that would be a heta? In an office building, for example, you stay late and there's a woman secretary over there. What's the din over there? But there are video cameras that people can check out what's going on. These are some of the shilas, Rabbi Isai, and they come up very, very often in the workplace, and it's important for us to understand what's going on. So maybe we'll start like this. Fellow calls me up, he's teaching someone in Nos Sameach, and he's teaching people that are Balei Tshuva, fresh to, becoming religious. And he asks me the following shaila. He says, I don't know what to do. We stumbled across the shaila of Yichud, and we started discussing it. And we started discussing the age, 3 years old, by a girl, whatever. And the guy says to me, this is what the guy calls me up, tells me about the fresh Baal Tshuva, asking him, what type of sick religion is this? That you can't have a man in Yichud with a 3-year-old girl. Are you serious? Or let's say there's a 93-year-old woman in a nursing home or whatever it may be, and somebody wants to go visit her, the door's locked, whatever. Are we dealing with such sick people that cannot be in a room in Yichud in seclusion with a 93-year-old woman or a 3-year-old girl? Like, come on, what's going on? So he called me up and he says to me, what do I tell him? What do I say to him? So I said, I think you should tell him the following. Obviously it requires a more extensive answer, but the basic answer is like this. You should explain to him that the Torah is not worried that something is going to happen. But the Torah wants to bring a person so far away from any concern when something possibly could happen. In other words, it's not the pshat. We're worried, the guy's with a 3-year-old girl, what's going to happen? It's not pshat like that. The Torah wants the person to be so distant from anything that has even a shmek, some shaykhs, to any issa going on involved. And therefore that's the pshat of Yichud, and that's something to worry about. A person could say, for example, nah, she's an older woman, I'm a younger guy, it's okay, I'm not worried. It doesn't work that way. There's no chilukim when it comes to Yichud. Yichud is also, and again, like I said, we're going to try to get to as much as I can in the short time that we have. It's going to take up, I would like to do it in 2 sessions. We'll do it today and we'll do it again next week. Try to get through all the Heterim Be'ez Hashem. So let's begin. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis, which is also Kedushin Daf Peis, Sanhedrin Chof Aleph, tells us the psukim about Yichud. And the Gemara says an interesting thing. Remez li Yichud min ha-Torah minayin. Where's the remez that Yichud is min ha-Torah? And in fact, from the Gemara it's mashma, and many Rishonim learn this way, that Yichud is not a D'Rabbanan, it's not a safeguard, it's an Issa D'Oraisa. That when a person is in Yichud together with another woman, there's an Issa D'Oraisa. That's the Lashon of the Gemara. Yichud min ha-Torah minayin. The Lashon of the Gemara in Avodah Zarah is Yichud the Bas Yisrael D'Oraisa hi. Very simple Gemara. Quite clear what the Art Scroll would translate that as, that Yichud is a D'Oraisa. Says the Ramban, yeah, but it says Remez. Remez is a hint. Zuk the Ramban, even though it says Remez, it's a Drosha Gemura and it's a D'Oraisa. As I paskin the Ramban. Okay? The Chavis Yah also says a similar idea as well, and there's other rayas. And by the way, so paskins Rashi, Tosus, the Rosh, Rabbeinu Yonah, the Ramban, the Rashba, the Rivash, the Smag, the Chinuch, the Tor, the Marshal, the Bach, the Trumas Hadesh, the Magid Mishnah, the Bekitza. We can go on and on. But most Rishonim hold that Yichud is a D'Oraisa. There is a Rambam, where the Rambam says it's possibly a D'Rabbanan. Yichud mipi ha-Kabbalah is the Lashon HaRambam in Hilchos Isur Rebia Perek of Beis, and therefore, according to the Rambam Pashtus, it's a D'Rabbanan, which is how the Bach, the Prisha, and the Vilna Gaon learned. However, you should know the Magid Mishnah, the Mabit, the Chidah, and others learn that no, even if the Rambam, it's a D'Oraisa. So even the Rambam, that's maybe a D'Rabbanan, now those that hold to D'Oraisa, we're dealing with a very serious Issa. That according to most Rishonim, it's an Issa D'Oraisa. Now, when is there an Issa D'Oraisa of Yichud? And this is important to know. Now, even though we say many times when we learn Chol Shabbos, there's no real nafkamina between a D'Oraisa and a D'Rabbanan, right? Because the D'Rabbanan fire is also very hot. But there is a nafkamina sometimes legabe tzirufim and legabe heterim, which maybe we'll discuss next time. For example, Chacham Zodom says this clearly. If you have, Piskachura brings it in Even Ezer Chovalah very clearly, that if you have, for example, one man and one woman, that is Yichud D'Oraisa. The moment you have one man and 2 women, right, or 2 women and 1 man, we'll talk about whether they're different Heterim, we'll get to that in the Ramah. But Akaponim, once you've got more than 1 and 1, that is considered to be a D'Rabbanan. Now you'll tell me, my nafkamina, Yichud D'Rabbanan is also Yichud. The answer is, we'll get to next time, various Heterim. Now, Heterim by Yichud we have to be very careful with. It's one of the reasons that I did not want to come out with a book on Yichud, because I was worried that people are going to take it in the wrong way. But Akaponim, we do have to learn. It's very important to learn the Heterim and when they apply, because in businesses, these shilas come up all the time. So 1 and 1 is a D'Oraisa, 1 and 2 is going to be a D'Rabbanan. Now, what's the reason? We all understand, but let's understand for a moment what the Rishonim and Achronim are saying, what the reason of Yichud. It sounds like it's a geder. It sounds like it's almost like a safeguard. Don't be in Yichud with a woman because something may happen. So it's like a safeguard, it's like a geder, it's like a fence. Don't do that because you may cross the red line, right? That's what it sounds like. If you look at the Rambam, the Lashon HaRambam, which is also Lashon HaMeiri, Hasmag, HaKolboy, Be'etzem Shulchan Aruch also, Shedova ze goyrim legalois erva. Goyrim means it causes. So it sounds Lashon HaRambam Shulchan Aruch that it's a cause for something greater. The Lashon of the Chinuch, Kuf Peiches, Lefi she'inyan ze kosher ma'oid. This is a difficult thing, says the Chinuch. V'yetzar hara chazak boy. And the Yitzhar is very strong over here. Al Kain, says the Chinuch, a person has to be maximizing his safeguarding. Again, sounds like it's a geder that don't do this because you might, which is often the mistake that people make, and that is, if nothing actually happened, then I wasn't over on the Issa. Because it's only a way of not doing the Issa, so I didn't do the Issa. So I was in Yichud, but nothing happened, so I'm good, right? So the answer is, and this Be'etzem, by the way, is brought down in many. By the way, the Chidah is a very interesting reason. The Chidah wants to tie in, and the whole reason of Yichud is Hirhurim. That when a person is together with a woman, it causes Hirurim. A person is in seclusion, a person is there, which by the way will answer the Shaila, why in an elevator, is it a Shaila, is it not a Shaila, maybe we'll get to it. But Al-Kaponim, the Chidah says a person has to be careful. It can cause Hirurim when a person is in close with a woman, especially when there's no one else around and it's private, which we'll get to. But Al-Kaponim, the Noidib Yehuda brings in Droshes Hatzlach, he says, don't think and don't make the mistake that if you weren't over on the Issa, then you weren't over on Yichud. No. Yichud is intrinsically asa. It's irrelevant whether or not anything happened afterwards. A person was miyachud, was together with a woman in Yichud, then it's going to be asa. You should know, by the way, Reb Shlomo Kluger in Tuv Tam Vadaz brings down, and he paskins halacha l'maisa, it could be Atzapia Rebbeinu Yoin and Pirkei Avos, that this is an issa of Yoreg Val Yavo. That means if a person is in a situation of Yichud, he has to kill himself rather than be in the situation. That's the psak of Shlomo Kluger in the Tuv Tam V'Gdas. It's Yoreg Val Yava. I know somebody that said over the Maisa that they were on a shidduch with a girl and they were on a cable car and they looked around at one point during the shidduch. There's nobody around. This is ridiculous. So he started to open the window and she said, "What are you doing?" He said, "What do you mean? You're hired to kill yourself, so I'm going to now jump out of the cable car." They got married afterwards, so it's okay. They got married and it's okay. And he didn't because he saw that the cable car was coming in. But Akaponim, he was saved. We don't paskin that way, don't worry. We don't paskin that way. But Akaponim, that's how homo you see that it is. Right? It's not stam, and it's not stam a thing, it's a real thing, it's an important thing. Let's move on, Rabbi Sai. All right. Just to get the oilam going. Let's move on. Let's understand, what does it mean, Yichud? This we have to understand. What is Yichud? What does it mean, Yichud? Does it mean in a closed, locked room? Or can it mean, like I said, and you go to the bank and you go have a meeting with the bank manager and she's sitting behind the desk, they lock the door behind you and no one can see because the curtains or the blinds are closed on the window. Is that Yichud? Or you're showing someone an apartment building that's an empty apartment building. It's a huge building, it's massive. Or you're going to a baseball field, whatever it may be. What is the shaila of Yichud? When is it considered to be Yichud and when is it not? So the first thing we have to know is Yichud does not necessarily only mean in a small secluded place. It could be in an open area if there's no one around. The yesod of Yichud is privacy. The yesod of Yichud means it's an undisturbed area. It's irrelevant how big it is as long as you are together in some way. That's important. But I'll upon him to realize that, for example, the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yudalad Amud talks about different types of trees, right, that they picked to be under, specifically ones that the leaves were not falling down and covering the area. Even though it was a very big area inside, the Gemara brings down, and again, the Mepharshim understand Pshat, that it could be any area, even if it's a large area. If you are secluded with a woman and it's it's a private and it's an undisturbed area, then it's problematic, which is why generally being in a car is not a problem of Yichud. As long as you are not in some completely deserted road in the middle of nowhere that no one is going to come to disturb, then therefore it's generally not. In the middle of the night, yeah, but there are windows. We'll speak about that maybe next time. We'll get into that. But Al Kaponim, a person has to know that it doesn't have to only mean a small room. It can mean an empty building, and a person is in an empty building even if they're in two separate rooms. Could be a shailu of Yichud if one is in, you're staying late in the office one night, and you know that there's a woman secretary also staying late. I've had phone calls from a driver of a bus that was driving, or from driver of a bus that said he's driving, he's doing the rounds. The last stop, there was a girl on the bus, and it's late at night, there's no one around. Is that mutter, or is that osa in that case? We have to discuss that. Zman, what is the time of Yichud, right? So the Gemara goes to the beginning of Sotah Daf Dalet, talks all about the sugya of what is the time span for Yichud. How far does it have to be? How long do you have to be secluded for? How often do cars have to come along for it to be undisturbed and private, for it to be a shaila of Yichud in that case? And that goes all across the spectrum for how long? Some hold 35 seconds and some hold 5 minutes. It really depends on the different situation that you're in and the different poskim that you ask. To sum up, when a person is in a secluded, private area with a woman, that is the shaila of Yichud. What we have to discuss in Mitzvah next week we'll get to is what are the heterim? What if, for example, a person is married and his wife is in the city, or vice versa? What if there are video cameras and people could ring the bell at any time in the office and come inside? What's the din over there? What about, for example, if there's 2 women or 2 men? What are the nafkaminas? Be'ez Hashem on Monday, we'll go through those shailas. Have an amazing, amazing day.